like it is. My name is Jade Alberts, the founder of Peer Guidance. We're a purpose before profit group that gets out there, helps people, does whatever we can to share our knowledge and share everything in the world. And one of the things that I'm really excited about lately is the course that's scrolling across the bottom. Entrepreneurship and psychology is something that is intertwined, and we are going to be running a four course before Christmas, starting October 16th. It's called Align Your Mind. You'll be able to click on it. We have Robert Broughton in here, talking about it, doing it. We all know the struggles. We've all been there, Tyler. I know you and I and Sep, all of us have talked about it on panels. And we're all extremely passionate about it, and it's something that's going on. So I just wanted to say, like, I've been so pumped since we started talking about this, that this is the first episode that I have done squat. There's nothing. It's like, let's go. Here we go. And so I want to start off. I mean, we had a little Hollywood Square shuffle, as Ty said it. Sep, why don't you do a little introduction here, and we'll take it from there.
See, nothing good comes out of being in the middle. You see?
I don't know.
I don't know about that. I don't know about
I think you're in the middle, and that's good.
Yeah,
I disagree.
First disagreement of the podcast.
There you go. That's the point of the trifecta, right? Yeah, my name is Sep. I'm a longtime founder, entrepreneur. I've had multiple endeavors. Currently doing custom software for startups, helping startups get to the next stage with their MVPs, and also have my own little startup happening. And so we're planning to bring together a studio and kind of bring entrepreneurs together and help them grow in Alberta. And I have my own podcast called Founders Corner, where we discuss things for founders to know, either at the seed, pre-seed, Series A, throughout the life cycle.
Amazing.
Nice.
Thank you, Seb. And now
Thank you.
the Hollywood Tourist. My name is Tyler Chisholm. I am the CEO and co-founder of Clear Motive Marketing, a 15-year plus agency based here in Alberta. We're full remote, so we've got teams all across the country. We are customer fanatics. We lean hard and we lean in deep with our clients to help understand their customers, primarily to create and develop marketing experiences that matter to them, right from the strategy through to lead gen, all the way through to their experience online, to how they interact in a long-term loyalty cycle. It's been 15 years in the making of constantly refining. And the one thing that always remains true, if it doesn't matter to the customer, it probably shouldn't matter to you. That's the first time I said that one out loud. I thought, okay, I felt good about that. It sounded good. Also, I am a podcast enthusiast. So I'm 650 episodes deep, probably on 2 podcasts. Woo! Collisions YYC. Yeah, there's a weight by just saying you've done something 650 times, right? People are like, I don't know if it's good, but shit, you stuck with it.
Tyler, it's called an addiction at this point.
Yeah. The first step is admitting it. So I'm not there yet. So, this could be an intervention. I don't know. Collisions YYC, we focus on a diverse and inclusive conversation about economic transformation across Western Canada. I am addicted to it. I love it. The conversations you get to have with someone who just got their $50,000 check, to a super major who's innovating in their technology space, whether that's energy, fintech, like ad tech on the end. I've had them on the show, but the perspective it's given me on what's actually going on in Calgary, like, you cannot not be excited about Alberta, specifically Calgary, if you're out there talking to people, because the stuff that's going on is amazing. And then they just get it, which is really what started. I've done about 100 episodes. I save that for the freaks, the weirdos, and the interesting conversations that I'm like, I just have to talk to you and I don't know where to put it. They just get it. That's where we're going. So I use that as my playground, just to have amazing conversations with interesting people that always leave me inspired.
Awesome.
When we started this conversation about, doing it, there's going to be 2 more. We're each going to be on each other's shows in the next upcoming, month or so. And I'm so pumped about it. And there's so many great podcasters. Jeff Humphries is probably one of my favorite, and Calgary Sessions is what he does. I really love his logo. I really wanted to do his logo, but then after I was on his show, I was like, I'm just copying you now, so I can't do that. And then, of course, Aiden Campbell and 2C Media, what they're doing out there. I mean, there's so many great things talking about some of the wonderful things that are going on in Alberta, that you should check them out. And I know we've all shared guests on our show, and it even happened today, like when Sep sent somebody. So I mean, let's talk about, let's dive into what's going on in Alberta and some of the great things. And I know we're going to dive into some of the ugly things too, or if maybe that's the wrong word to use, maybe some of the challenging things. But you know what, let's let's kick it off. Let's talk about entrepreneurship, because that's something that drives all of us. As a passion moving forward. So what do you think? Let's talk about the good right now in what's going on in Calgary and Alberta.
I was
Seth,
going to
kick it
say, which direction are you going to take it? The bad first or the good first?
All good.
We'll do a sandwich. We'll start good. We'll put a little bit of something in the middle, and then we'll finish positive, right?
Then perhaps I should go in the middle.
Back to the middle again. Yeah, right on. Exactly.
See, nothing good comes from the middle. No, honestly, Calgary is one of those, and Alberta in general, right? Like, it's one of those provinces that's always been on the forefront when it comes to evolution, technology and evolution of the city itself. Like, I've been here since '96. Even as a kid, like, you can see the booms that keep just happening in Alberta, right? Like, BC has had one boom, Toronto keeps having booms, but Calgary is one of the more consistent ones, I would say, is like where the city stays a city and not a metropolis where it just becomes messy. That's one thing I really do love about Calgary. I think that's the next best city in Canada. And people are always like, hey, why don't you go to Toronto or Vancouver? I'm like, if I'm going to move, I'm not moving anywhere in Canada. You know what I mean? And that's always been my thesis of anything is, why move to another city in Canada? This city is perfect for Canada. So that's my perspective in the living aspect. And in the entrepreneur aspect, I'll go in the middle there.
Oh, you're gonna wait. Okay, you're gonna just hold it.
Yeah,
okay, I was is that a pregnant pause that he introduced into the conversation?
I didn't know what that was.
I was like, what? Is it me? Is it me? Is it me? Okay, it's me. I'm gonna.
No, and Tyler, the only reason I'm passing off to you because I'm very software focused, right? Like, my business is when I had my first company, which was a home automation company, I loved it here. It was booming, great, service industry, home services. It was great. But now my experience is so heavy on software. So I'm curious what your thoughts are on
Fair enough. I'm going to start.
I'll take
a similar swipe where you started. I moved to Calgary in 2000. Very quickly went, whoa, these are my people. Like, I need to be here.
Yeah.
The sense of abundance, the long-term sense of success here, I think has created for me a sense of, it's not, if I'm successful, you can be successful too. Other places I've lived, it's like, well, geez, if you get something, I might lose something. I've always felt there was a sense of abundance here, which I think has lent into, well, yeah, if you can provide value, you can get opportunities. Someone will introduce you, someone will open a door, someone will give you a chance. And part of the boom bust cycle, but if you look at Alberta, it's been a prosperous province. We've had a lot of financial success, always a lot weighted on the energy industry, built on the back of the ag space of the holy shit. If I don't do this, no one else is going to. Farmers, the ultimate entrepreneurs, really, at the end of the day, right? Because if you don't, every day they wake up going, holy shit, is the world going to screw me over today? And how am I going to survive, right?
Yeah.
And the Alberta cycle and the opportunity that's created for even myself, not realizing, I grew up in an environment where my dad was an entrepreneur. No one ever said that word. He owned a trucking company. He owned a farm. He owned a snow removal company, and it just all worked together. And he was just the guy that figured things out. Entrepreneur was a remedial title that was given to people that couldn't, quote unquote, make it in the real world when most of us were younger. So I think that Alberta has really lent well to, if you can provide value, someone will give you opportunity. I think it's part of our DNA. The rise of this entrepreneurship category, trend, label, I think has been successful in Alberta because it was built on that. I think where maybe we can get into the middle now is we've over-indexed a little bit and overshined it a bit. We've put on capes and we've shot everyone to the top and we've glamorized it, which we love to do. So I love that Alberta has a great place for this to foster, but like anything, you take it a little bit too far, it creates a little bit of risk. But I think it was built on a very solid platform of years and years of steady and cyclical opportunities, recognized growth and abundance. But maybe we've put people at risk by not telling the whole story.
Yeah. And do you think, Tyler, so one of my big pet peeves in Canada is the fact that when you do meet people, like when I meet people and they're like, oh, I'm doing this, I'm like immediately thinking, oh, I have a connection for you. Let me help you out. Right. And I do agree with you. I think Alberta, I don't know about Edmonton, but for Calgary, for example, it was like that prior to 2015.
Okay.
But in my opinion, people do that from abundance, right? We have so many connections. There's so many opportunities. It's okay to share. As soon as that oil price dropped, it's almost everyone kind of like reversed, and it was like, no, I'm going back to, I'm not sure. Because when I go to the States, no matter who you meet, they immediately are sharing contacts. Like, I've known you for an hour, and they're like, oh, you should meet my friend. They're in this business. They'll help you out. You don't get that in Canada. In Canada, you have to know the guy for at least 6 months before they start.
Interesting. I still found in Calgary, because I started the podcast.
It is better in Calgary, by the way.
Yeah, fair enough. Other parts of Canada,
Yeah.
if you're in the inner circle, yes. Or
Yes.
they'll say they're going to do it and they never actually follow through.
Correct.
My buddy used to call it the Van Groovy special. Everybody like, yeah, let me introduce you. Yeah, let me make a connection. Like Winks and Guns guy. He was worked in like small cap mining.
Yeah.
Lots of Winks and Guns. But I still find in Alberta, 2019, part of why I started the podcast, challenged by a good friend of mine, Kevin Crowe, I think Jade, I know, who was like, hey, there's a lot of good stuff going on in here. Like, it's been a shitty couple of years, but there still is that Alberta spirit. You just had to, I didn't find the concentric circles overlapped as much as they do in the good times, which right now there's a lot of overlapping and a lot of sharing, which, I think that frequency got dialed back after years and years of hollowing out and, massive layoffs. And, we're not there anymore. I still think we've got that as our superpower, but you're right. It doesn't mean it doesn't exist anywhere else. It just, can stand on the fact that it exists here.
100%. I'm with you on that one. More so than any other city. Like, I've been to Toronto, Vancouver. You can't even get a connection in
It's a very different world. I grew up in Montreal, and as long as you knew somebody, it was great. But if you weren't somebody's uncle or cousin or related, or somebody could open a door for you, it was tough. Like, I would never have been able to build what I was able to build in Calgary in Montreal. I just don't think that would have ever happened for me.
Jade, what do you think? Because Jade, everybody knows Jade. Like, anyone,
everybody does know Jade. That's a real thing. That is a real thing.
They're all like, you should talk to Jade. No, I'm like, no, I know Jade, guys. Come on.
I'm just sitting back here, like, I'm just gonna have my treats and listen to you guys. Eat my licorice.
I don't even know which part of the sandwich he wants to be in.
Well, we'll give him. We'll give him a chance, because Jade, you're in the TNT community. You're in the startup community. You're in the community. ... And you're seeing a lot of, you and I've been on a panel where we talked about kind of the risk of the glamorization of the entrepreneur. Yeah. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on, are we getting any better? I don't think we're getting any better.
Listen, I mean, there's been some great comments in there, in our section. And I just want to say, yes, Derek, we are laughing too much, and there's going to be more laughing. And Letitia, yes. And Jessica, I agree with you, because 9-ish or so years ago, when we exited our first company, I was kind of like, wow, like there wasn't a lot of collaboration. There wasn't a lot. And now it's amazing. Like, it doesn't matter. We will introduce anybody to anybody anywhere. And I see that in Alberta or in Canada, just being around with the blockchain consortium, I see a lot of that happening as well. I think Alberta is by far, the best when it comes to that, especially when it comes to sharing deal flow or anything along those lines. Right. And again, like, this is why we all started our podcast, right? 6.5 years ago, telling it was like it is, to get it. One of the things that and Tyler, you touched on it. I mean, we are a province of entrepreneurs, going back to farmers and oilmen. We have now gotten to a point where we have started glorifying it. And it is, in my opinion, a little scary. And we aren't talking about the reality of how hard it is. We aren't talking about, I am not seeing as many side of the desks companies anymore. There's nothing wrong with running a company as a side of the desk. Ask Monarch, ask Kelsey, those types of people that ran it. And you know what? Now I'm ready. I actually maybe got some money put away to pay my bills and my mortgages and do things that I want to do and love. And, going out there and again, I'm going to get people to get mad at me again. But if you've never been an entrepreneur, there's no goddamn way you should be helping an entrepreneur. You don't understand what it's like to sit there and lay on the grass and cry.
And how? Cheers.
Crying. Right? I don't know. Firing somebody, not knowing if you're going to get paid. Like, this is something that we have to talk about. And we need more people with gray hairs that have sat there and cried, sharing their knowledge with some of these, young whippersnappers that have great ideas, but maybe being directed in the wrong way.
So I deal with this on a regular basis. just because of the fact that I do talk to startups on a regular basis because we are the ones building their software, right? Okay, so one, I would say right off the bat, you're bang on with the, people giving advice when they've never done it themselves. That's a big one. The second big one, in my opinion, is the ones that where you're talking to startups, and even as an investor, you're looking at them saying, okay, intriguing idea. How much money have you raised, or how much money have you put your own money into it? And they go, I'm not putting my money into it. Are you crazy? No, I'm using investor money for all of it. And you're like sitting there going, you've watched too many documentaries in Silicon Valley, because that's the only city that happens in, where you raise $1 million at 10% evaluation. And by the way, that's repeat founders. That's never one a brand new founder that's never done it. And it's just this glorification of, okay, I need $1 million because I got to go get an office. I got to go get top of the line MacBooks with the displays for $5,000. Like, you're looking at these things and going, guys, what are you doing? You can start a startup with $50,000, $100,000.
Yeah. Oh,
Tyler didn't like that. See, he just ran out of the room.
He just left. He's out. He's gone. He probably went to get popcorn.
That's all. This is going to get exciting.
And that's something that, as a gentleman who's been investing for a long time, my wife and I, it is something, I've slowed down. I mean, people think that they are investable and they're not. And I mean, you have to go out there. Everybody will have their own investor theses. I love to see MRR and different types of things along those lines. But just because you have a startup doesn't mean you're going to do it. And I remember, and I'm, this is not a shot at Bryan and Jaques, but everybody used to say, oh my God, your due diligence, it's too long. It's 6 months. That's no good. Well, you know what? Most of their companies are moving on the right trail upwards. I obviously invest through Startup TNT, and I love it. Maybe there has to be a little more time spent with some of these companies to do due diligence, because a lot of the companies there are great companies, but are they going to be investable companies in that next round? I don't know. And it's a lot of them are trending that way. And I don't want to be, negative Nancy, but this is the reality. And if I'm going to invest, or you or anybody else wants to put in their hard-earned money, I have the right to do as much due diligence as I want.
100%.
Have you guys seen like that was going on in Calgary kind of a couple of years ago? Like, Jay, to your point, and Sepehr, what are your thoughts? There's some companies that got invested in 2 years ago. They're now in that cycle, the down round that gets thrown around almost in a trendy way, but they didn't set themselves up for success. Like, are we starting to see a lot of that? Like, where that rubber is meeting the road in the wrong way now? Like, we're proving out what you both just said.
So I'm not going to mention names. I think we'll keep names out of this.
Yeah, we're only going to mention names in the positive, but the negative, you know who you are. You know who you are.
So a company going in and raising, actually, you know what? Everyone's going to know what it is, but raising $1 billion valuation.
Okay.
When you only have X amount of users, it to me is like, you raised on one big boom. You know how, Tyler, you and I always talk about the fact that, like, last year looked so good, but it was from one client. Yes. And you're like, yeah, that's not the average, right? 100%. That's how that raise came about. And now you're going to see that happens in Alberta. That's scary, right? Even Jade will tell you that's scary, because what if that collapses? If that collapses, the confidence in the ecosystem goes away, right? So when you glorify those deals, for example, I think Jade you were mentioning we outdid BC, but it was because of 2 deals. If those deals fall apart, the trend for Calgary goes away with that, right? So it's heavy risk when you rely on just a few select deals that do it. But I would love to know your guys' thesis. Because you're right, Jade, everybody has different thesis. Mine is more like, what's the technology? Obviously, I'm from the technology side. So what's the technology? How are you going to make this business work? The number of times people come to me and they're like, I want to build a marketplace. A marketplace is great business, but how are you going to do it? It's the hardest business to do. It's literally if you say 98% of entrepreneurs fail, I would say 99.9% of marketplaces fail. You know what I mean? Like, it's so hard, and people don't realize how hard it is. But they come to you and they're like, "I'm confident this is going to work." It's like, Yes, but I know things you may not know. So I'm curious because you guys both invest, right?
I'm just the you put a lot of pressure with using the word thesis. I'm not sure if what I have would qualify as a thesis. To be clear, I don't want to like put some weight on that. Like no pressure,
Sorry,
good ideas only.
Too much science. Too much science.
Like, I mean, again, it's just such a random thing, right? Like, I mean, I truly believe. I mean, I'm a university dropout that is a business development guy, right? That before I became an entrepreneur, when we built Nathan's, it wasn't like, oh, let's hit this accelerator. Oh, let's go get this person. You know what? It was fucking hit the road. Let's sell. And you know what? It wasn't working. We changed our entire plan and we made it work. Like, I don't think people are willing enough. And I see this all the time to start knocking on doors. Like the only capital you can control is sales. And if you don't truly believe that, you're in a lot of trouble.
Well, they always say a founder is the salesperson. Don't hire a salesperson because the salesperson will never do what you can do, and you're just going to burn through capital.
Well, Sepehr, the first time you and I sat down, you laid out your thesis for me with what you're building with Corridor, and you said, listen, like the founder needs to be awesome at this thing, which is out there, customers selling, telling the story, not getting sucked into what can be the black hole of the tech build. And, your position of how you were building your fund, that resonated with me a lot because a lot of the wares I've seen it go off the rails is they didn't take that serious enough or didn't think it was their job. Or I love what Jay just said, like, sales is your best access to capital. It's a very real thing, and for me, I've stayed away from playing in anything that I do in the true venture space, especially early stage. I'll work with the fund. Like I'm a big supporter. I participate in the Tallgrass Fund. So give a shout out to Wilson and his team over there. Cause I know I don't have those skills. Even at Clearmotive, we're not a first job kind of place. We want you on your second or third because we know we're just not great at that. So I've had to have that fireside chat because I think, all guys think they're good race car drivers and they're all good at, we should all know how to fly planes just because we've watched movies about that. I think sometimes in venture investing, it can be like that. I ran my business. It did well. So now therefore I'm a venture investor.
Yeah.
I had to quickly realize I wasn't after I only lost a little bit to realize I need to step away from the gambling table.
See, that's the thing. I trust founders that have failed more than founders that have actually succeeded. Because in my opinion, you're not going to be able to replicate that, but you don't know what all the wrong things are.
I had a buddy that would not hire anyone in a senior. This was an established 30-year company. He would not hire you into his senior leadership team if in the interview you weren't able to tell him about your complete disaster where everything went horribly wrong. Because he's like, if you haven't had it, you're going to have it when you're working for me, and I can't afford that. It was a great theory. Like, I'm sure he was very good at positioning it, but that resonated with me. Like years later, I still think about that.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, some of the best founders have learned on someone else's dime, right?
Yeah. 100%.
Like when some of the best companies I've seen in come out of Alberta have been somebody that's worked for a company for X amount of years and said, holy shit, there's a gap here. There's something here. I think I can make this better. And boom, they have. And I mean, Jade, I love that.
Jade, have you ever seen, ideally the best case scenario for any founder, any entrepreneur that wants to get into the business of their own is to literally go work for a startup and just for 6 months, 6 months to a year, you'll see the chaoticness of that world and the amount of things you will learn if you're the top 10 employee. Like if you're just the first 10 employees, you have access to everything. This is what I tell all of my employees is the things you will learn here, you will never learn if you go work for a company that's going to put you in a code base where they're like, focus on this and don't talk to anybody else. And this is all I need you to do and QA and that's it, right? You don't learn that way. You're just there for a paycheck, right? What are your thoughts about that? Because like, that's what I tell all founders is like, I want to start my own idea. It's like, have you ever been in a startup? And they're like, no. I was like, go work for one. The amount of things you will learn.
We've created a culture of wannapreneurs. Everybody wants to be one.
Yeah. Right? Yeah, because we've said it's easy, guys. Come to this event, and over the weekend we will teach you how to start up your own business.
Are we in
a weekend?
What about age?
I wish.
Because like I'm looking at my 22-year-old nephew, and then my 50-year-old friend who got a big exit package from his engineering company. Now he wants to start his own firm. My 20-year-old nephew sees entrepreneurship as shiny. He feels like he doesn't have a lot of choices. he sees the glamorization of like, oh, I dropped out of school and now I'm a $1 billion founder and all that stuff. He sees that. And then we see maybe a 45, I'm gonna pick a name, 45-year-old male, female, doesn't matter, who got a package and like, I'm going to go start something else. Both have similar challenges, but both are at different life cycles. Are we talking about them as a broad group, or are we indexing on a lot of young people getting sold maybe a false bill of goods and not feeling like there's other opportunities for them? Or am I segregating too much just by even saying that?
I would say, I mean, my perspective is it is the younger ones.
Okay.
The older ones, like, for example, the one that gets an exit package and they're going to go start their own agency. To me, you've worked in the industry, you know what you're doing. You're basically just spinning off what you already know to be true. And you're right. And I think those ones are the ones that are most likely to be successful because they have the network, they have the connections, they have the history, right? It's the 20, and it's not even 22, but like,
I'm just picking an age. I don't want to be ageist. I'm just picking a category.
And they kind of go, well, I kind of can't find a job. I'm going to be a consultant. And you're like, okay.
Good luck with that.
Okay. My sense of that is similar to what you said.
Yeah. And I mean, honestly, that's why I love seeing, or I would love even going to platform and saying, you know what, hire some more graybeards that will do it for a little bit less that have been there. Right. Like, like the more successful entrepreneurs are the ones that have that experience, right? That have a little bit of I don't have to worry potentially about putting food on my table or paying my mortgage or, I've got, and that's why I mentioned it before. It is hard. And there's not enough people saying it's hard. And there's not enough people saying that you're probably going to fail. Or if they're, 100%, if they're into 100%. It and they got their free little $10,000 grant which went to a consultant, which some of that is just a waste of money. I truly believe that we have to be honest with these people and say, stop doing this. I mean, I know I say it and I have said it, and I've had entrepreneurs come back to me and said, I wish I would have listened to you. Like, stop spending money. Don't mortgage like, there's an entrepreneur here where it said, I'm going to take out another mortgage. I was like, holy shit, do not do that. Like, do not do that. Don't.
Are we also fueling the fire? Are we enabling with all the incubators and that early pre-idea funding stuff? And like, it looks great. And it looks like the ecosystem is just, I love this. Cause like, where's a good thing becoming a bad thing? Cause I don't want to say one is good or one is bad, but where is it leading to, we're extrapolating out here and we're pulling them down the road with not enough of the fireside chats that maybe need to happen. I don't know. I want to balance we need that, but at the same time, are we slapping each other in the face enough?
Well, and I think here's the thing. It's always, especially when it comes to like government things, it's all about statistics, right? They're not looking at the big picture. They're looking at statistics. It's how many entrepreneurs did you sign up today, right? So obviously the motive for some of these organizations that are meant to help entrepreneurs is all about sign up. And so the only way to do that is rah, let's go. Entrepreneurship is a great, start your idea tomorrow. Like, you need to, like, it's a great, you know what I mean? And it's less of me and Jade in that world of going, no, don't be dumb. That's a bad idea. That's not going to work. Right. And here's why it's not going to work. We're not just saying it because we don't like you or something. It's genuinely coming from people who have experience and understanding. Like I said, I've worked with hundreds of startups now, and I've seen things work and not work. Right. So I have a little bit of an idea of where, you can make it happen. Right. And I think, again, because of the glorification, entrepreneurship is not for everybody. It's a lot of work. It's hard work. And if you come from the corporate world, you're not ready for entrepreneurship. So you better be mentally ready. And I think that's what Jade's comment too is, right? It's, you're not going to make profit in the first 3 months. You're not going to be ready to be profitable in the first year. So make sure you have food on the table and you have the savings, or you have the, external income for it to be able to support.
So what I'm hearing, to not sound like a bunch of out of touch old guys here, 25-year-old me wouldn't have taken advice from me, 50-year-old me either, just to be clear. But what I am hearing is, if I could tell 25-year-old me to maybe be a little less like risky, to have a little bit more of a backup plan, have a little more like, go do the thing, but don't second mortgage your house. What I heard you
Yes.
say.
Yeah.
Because like, I just want to be respectful is that, you know, I'm using my 20-year-old nephew. I gave him advice on something and I said, hey, I know you're not going to take this, but I want 10 years from now, you just to remember that I did say it. And he's like, oh no, Uncle T. I was like, you're not going to listen anyways. I get it, you know, and being respectful of that. But what I am hearing is like, hey, maybe a couple other things need to be thought about while you embark on this journey that you're destined to.
100%. 100%.
Yeah.
Look, I mean, I really love using Alexander the Great as an example. Okay. He is a famous commander. The Greeks love him. He took over Persia, right? I'm Persian, so it's insulting to me, but whatever. We'll leave it on that. That's a different.
I was going to say, isn't that a point of contention for you?
This is why I've studied him. You see,
I do understand. Yeah. So understand what to appreciate and what to be pissed off about. No,
but it was, you know, he went from Macedonia, and his first battle was on the field, and he was a young 20s, right? He was early 20s, and what he did differently was pretty much suicidal, which is what we all do at our 20s because we think we're ambitious, we think we know everything,
we're invincible.
Invincible, right? What he did was he broke the line by going straight at the line, and it was unseen. It's never seen before, so the line would automatically break, right? But that's suicide. If you look at it from a perspective of my age, or, you know, even you guys, you guys look at it and go, that's stupid. Why would you do that? You'll get killed. He didn't think twice, right? So there is the aspect of being risky and really just throwing yourself out there. Again, I think where the failure comes is the mental preparedness for it. To understand that you will die if you do this, or this will be very difficult if I do jump into entrepreneurship. Not to, you know, compare death to entrepreneurship.
But also, if we're going to use the battlefield analogy, can I survive the wounds? Can I survive the wounds that I got? I'll learn to maybe change my angle of the way I hit the line next.
Exactly.
I'm going to play that one out a little bit. Yeah.
And he almost died in that field. It was the first battle. He almost died. He got saved by his second in command, but he learned how to not do it. Maybe
well, it also shows you need a really good team around you to drag you off the field when you lose your leg.
Team is let's have that.
Yeah, I got $5 says that his commander was older and had more experience on the battlefield. I'm just going to take a wild guess, but we're not talking about that guy right now. We don't know his name, do we?
It was his dad's general. That's correct.
Yeah.
No, okay.
We could use a lot of movie analogies. We can go to Gladiator, right?
Oh, I love that. The second Gladiator is coming out. I'm just saying it. I'm very excited.
One of my wife's favorite movies. I've seen it many, many times. Yes.
Oh,
but I think that comes full circle to where we started about the excellent collaboration that we do have in this work. You know, Tyler, you've heard me say this thousands of times. Asking for help is not a sign of weakness, and we will help. There are people that will introduce and make sure that you don't have to pay somebody to get an answer. I mean, there are lots of people here, and Platform is a fantastic place to network, to be there. And I mean, we use it at TNT, we use it, all over the place, but even other things like legal services with Osler to have high growth programs. They'll give you time to sit down and talk. And there are so many people in our community that will help you and give you that little piece of advice. You don't have to listen to all of it. In the end, it's your company, and you have to make that decision based on what you feel is best. Because if it fails, you better be able to look yourself in the mirror and say, I tried everything I did, and not say, I listened to Jade Alberts and he was a schmuck and he's the reason I failed. Right.
And don't you love it when they do that? Right? Things go wrong. It's like, I listened to him. Damn it, it was his fault. What do you guys?
Extreme personal accountability is something you're going to learn sooner or later, whether you like it or not. So whatever.
Okay, I have a question for you guys, and this is a clear question. I just want to, what your thoughts are on this. Grants, and I'll give you why I'm asking this question. The UK has done an amazing job in a way. Instead of utilizing grants, what they've done is basically empowered the angel community to, instead of giving grants to startups, they essentially give tax credits to angels for failed investments, right? So in essence, reducing the risk for angels to invest in startups in the UK. It's been a great program. It's one of the most successful programs. Right now, they're actually stuck because they have a ton of great seed and pre-seed companies, but they don't have the capacity to take it to the Series A and beyond. But what are your guys' thoughts on grants? Because I've been a startup. I've been there, writing those grants and doing those things for, like Jade said, $10,000 is to me bonkers sometimes. Where it's like, you have to realize as a founder, I have such limited time. How is that expected of me to write that much context? Whereas an angel would make a better decision from government anyways, in my opinion. That's my thought process. I mean, go.
Yeah, I guess
controversial conversation.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great conversation. Let's park the founder and the time and the investment and the potential distraction that can happen. I've heard a lot of those stories. Let's talk about it at a government level, federal or provincial. What systems are we setting up to inspire and to instigate and to, reward on the right behavior? So I like where you started with that of like, hey, we're going to do this through that. And like right now you've got, you can have an allowable business investment loss. You can write off some of those things. And some of us who've lost money in startups have had to, go down then how do I navigate it tax wise? But I like the part about why don't I get right out ahead of it of like, you'll get this incentive if you do this behavior. Yes. And that's where the government kind of almost stops its involvement. Because, now you're dealing with a venture investor. They're a little more sophisticated. They can probably deal with some of that paperwork a lot easier. They've got more time. And now they're stewarding it out there. It's no different than maybe me picking a fund to participate in going, you've got the expertise in this space, this sector. I'm going to let you do that. I love the government doing that. Now, the second part is the time, the investment, and the potential distraction that you actually shift your business to get a grant in a direction you shouldn't have. I've heard probably as many bad stories as I've had good stories on that one. So that's
it's a
my answer is yes and no on that one.
Yeah, but I feel like the big issue in Alberta is the deal flow, right? The deal flow is stale, right? It's hard to and like Jade said earlier in the podcast, is my hard-earned money. I don't like. I have to see great value before I invest it. Whereas if I reduce your risk from a government perspective of encouraging Jade to invest his money, it's almost less about, because Jade has a great ability to be able to make good decisions on which startups are deserving of that money, right? He's not trying.
How do I incentivize him to make what he's already going to know is a good decision, and now I'm just de-risking it for him?
Exactly, and you're reducing the bureaucracy of it, because sometimes I'll tell you, startups some people do have really good ways of telling great stories, right? That maybe their business is not actually a good idea, right? Whereas I would
argue those are sometimes two different skills. Running a good business and telling a good story.
True. Yeah. Exactly. That's my point, right?
Yeah.
So I agree. They get funding, but they're not deserving of funding, right? So not saying no one deserves money. That's not what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to say, how do you encourage angels to become more active? Because honestly, it is tough to raise money in Canada, let alone seed level, because realistically, well, you're just at an idea stage. If you have an MVP, great, but you're technically.
And the second part of the question is the grant process, does it help or hinder that startup more or less? So I'm curious, Jay, I'm sure you've run into this because you and I have talked about non-dilutive capital and different ways of bringing money into the business on one of our many conversations. Be curious what you're seeing on some of the good and the bad of when that's actually come to fruition.
Yeah, I mean, people do chase the money, to Sep's point, right? And and now you're going in the wrong decision. And honestly, I'm going to give Minister Glubish a big shout out for shaking things up at Alberta Innovates, because it needed to be done, right? There was money being handed out left, right, and center that wasn't warranted. There's $11 million spent on one company that didn't have 1 cent in sale, and they closed their doors. $8 million for another one. I mean, these KPIs have to be, they have to, when you're giving $180, $200 million to hand out, there better be some people held accountable for where this is going. And I've seen it become a little more stringent, which it should be. Yeah. And because the one thing I love about this is a lot of people don't have what we have. And this is what's given us sometimes in a false sense of hope for some of these companies. Because when that non-dilutive runs out, oh my God, I don't have no sales team. Yeah. So they're able to ride the coattail on that. And I really do believe there are great people in our community like Denise Barrel, the Grand Sherpa, that you should talk about how you're going to put your plan to go. Just like Kevin and Elevate IP, put your IP strategy forward. Talk about it. Think about it. Understand where you're going to be. Work with your Alberta Innovates rep. But, you cannot rely on this money. And as soon as you start relying on this money, your company's pretty much doomed. And I think, having Nate there is a very good thing because he sees this. He's been in that VC world. He understands it.
Well, Jay, what do you think about the idea of like dedicating more grants towards angels and kind of encouraging deal flow more so than handing out checks to individual startups? What are your thoughts on that?
And there are some conversations that are leading that way, which are within Alberta Innovates, which is great.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they'll come to fruition or where they are in the process, but in a few of my conversations that they're going there, even on the fund side, But again, I mean, having OSIF and give money into things, I mean, that's great. Brad does a fantastic job changing that around and giving back to the community to make sure. But I wish there would be, I know AEC has such a big, you got to be at least a $10 million type thing, and the hoops that you have to jump through to get there, pretty tough. And some funds don't do it right.
Yeah.
But I would love to see, I mean, I've always said, Startup TNT has done a fantastic job introducing more angels, over 400 new angels in our community, and helping them understand how to invest their money properly. Right? You can go buy crypto tomorrow and not have a clue and lose it all, where the education that comes with it is great. But these funds, whether it be Metiquity, Thin Air, Tallgrass, Weave, all of them that are here, Sprout, I would love to see some of it tied to that, because they are doing proper due diligence on these companies, and they know and they understand where what's going through. And that would really, because people get pissed when they're like, "Oh my God, how come no one's investing me? I'm not getting a grant." Well, actually, you don't deserve either of them. So move on.
Yeah. And moving back,
I see Jade is taking on a very tough love persona that I like. Jade, I haven't chatted with you for a while. There's a few, the calluses are building up, my friend. I can see.
Yeah, exactly, right? Tell it like it is. Like, shit,
yeah,
that's what we have to do.
Yeah, you know what? On brand, brother. On brand. Yeah, on brand. Yeah.
Oh, I know, we've been talking, and I haven't even given a shout out to Corridor. Sepehr, your company does amazing work with startups. I've seen it, and talking with CarePal and what you did with them to help them. So anybody looking for that help, just click on the website again. Clear Motive is unbelievable marketing company, and Tyler's done just a fantastic job. One of the leaders, especially with his philanthropy and his charity work. Click on their website in the comments section. Again, we all talked about this. That's the psychology, the mental health, and maybe we'll dab into that in another episode. But, having someone like Robert Broughton, who was on here listening, and we're going to be partnering with them, bringing it in, come and talk, open up, be vulnerable. I mean, that helps. And I mean, I've seen that help. We've all seen that help. So that is definitely something. And then again, I mean, Pure Guidance, and Osler do a very good job of putting office hours in there and just coming and asking questions. So again, it goes back to, we are out there. There are a lot of people doing a lot of great things out there. You just have to get out there and ask. And the three of us would be more than happy to sit down and go for a coffee with you, any time. Just stay away from Wine Wednesdays at the Merchants.
Well, that's a whole, or don't. But wear your armor, gentlemen. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, it depends how much truth you want.
Wednesdays at Merchants in Marteloup is a whole other thing. You're like, when did I go to a nightclub and what just happened here?
Yeah, when was I at 52 the youngest guy in here?
Yeah. It's a city full of diversity and personality, and as we grow, I find that more and more. It's lovely. I love it.
It's true.
I just before we close off here, I do we've had such a great conversation, and again, we're having two more, one on each of your podcasts, and I'm pumped about that. But I want to end on a piece of advice, because I've ended on that on every single. We're over 350 telling it like it is, and you know what? This is just something I love hearing, especially from people that have been there, done that. And, Tyler, we'll start with you. If you had one piece of advice for an entrepreneur, what would that be?
Oh, man. You're asking a rocket of a question.
Doesn't hear it. You don't eat my Twizzler.
You can always make find or manifest more money. You can never find more time. So use it wisely.
I love it. I love it.
I like that one. Okay. Am I in the middle? Am I next?
I didn't give you a lot of time to stall there, Seth. I was like, I fed that right at you.
You're in between a Tyler and Jade sandwich here, baby.
So, Jade, I introduced you to one of my mentors, Roderick Jefferson, a great individual, so humble, so successful, in San Francisco. So, he's been in the weeds of it all. One thing that he always taught me, and I share this with all my startups and whoever I talk to, hope is not a strategy. And I think we need to walk away from hoping it will be successful and actually build a strategy around how to make sure it is successful. Because again, entrepreneurship, it's a lot of emotions, it's a lot of optimism, and you have to have that in order to be an entrepreneur. But the thing that optimism brings is a lot of hoping and not a lot of strategy building. So that's what I would say. Hope is not a strategy.
Love it.
I love that.
Even
Absolutely
though I technically took it from Roderick, it doesn't matter. It's good advice. I'm going to carry it forward.
Oh, that's the beautiful thing about good advice and a good quote. It floats around and it shifts and it changes, but the message is, the message, But again, I will not underestimate, not to counter it, but to play with it a little bit. A little bit of hope that tomorrow will be better than today because you have a plan can go a long way as well.
Yeah, there you go. See, did we just combine?
Yeah, that
advice on advice.
The sandwich is getting tastier by the minute.
Now,
I'm already on to dessert again.
Dessert. All right, shots. All right. Sorry, I jumped right to the. I was back at Merchants on Wednesday.
Yeah, well, it is Wednesday, so maybe we'll debrief.
You're right, man. That stuck up on me for sure.
That's
you know what?
I'm in.
I love you guys and everything that you do in our community and ecosystem and give back. And I mean, one thing I love saying is, both of you keep on being awesome. And I can't wait to come on your guys' show again and continue this conversation. And who knows what we're going to get into. I mean, this is the first time ever. I've never put any questions out there. We rattled off, 46 minutes. It's officially the longest one ever. And we were even going to talk about city shit. And we never even got to it.
Oh, I have a list of stuff, but I'm going to save that for next time. I'm going to save that for next time.
This is what happens when you bring Tyler into a podcast. It always goes overtime. Always. Even with my podcast,
what you meant to say was we always create extra amazing content. Is what you? That's what I heard.
That's true. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, stay humble, everybody.
Hey, everybody, have a great Wednesday. I look forward. Startup TNT kickoff is tomorrow night. If you're gonna, head out there, it's Life Sciences Week as well. So, Sep, Ty, thanks again, my friends, and we'll talk soon. And I hope everybody enjoys the rest of their day. Have a good one.
Cheers.
Bye, everybody.